How's it going, guys? Cracked Rag here, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that I am pretty passionate about in general. Essentially, we're going to be discussing if children should be allowed to play violent, M-rated video games full of murder and gore and sex. See, I'm going to be having kids in the next year or two. It's just something I'm very passionate about, and I want to start a family and support them through YouTube. And with that, I've actually been asked this question quite a few times from various parents and family members who are somewhat concerned about my viewpoint on the situation. So essentially, most people believe that children under like 15 shouldn't touch or even look at video games that have a mature 17 plus rating. In fact, most people believe in this rule so strongly that if you try to purchase an M-rated game at a place like GameStop, you actually have to provide ID as if you were buying booze or something, which is just something I find so fucking ridiculous because it's a video game. So if it wasn't obvious enough, my stance on this issue is that yes, children should be able to play M-rated video games without problem. And I do mean children, like even 6 years old. I'm totally cool with playing violent video games. For one, kids are not nearly as innocent as people want to believe. 90% of young children would not be scared or shocked at all upon exposure to something mature in a video game, like seeing a decapitation. Children seek that shit out. There's a reason why you have grown men dominating communities meant for children, and children dominating communities meant for grown men. It's just basic psychology. Kids seek that shit out. They want what they can't have, so why not give it to them? Plus, you should have seen the fucking games I was playing when I was 8, 9, 10. I was playing shit like Manhunt, The Punisher, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, etc, etc. I almost never played a game under an M rating until I was well into my teens. In fact, oddly enough, nowadays I only really like playing stuff like Crash Bandicoot, so that's weird. Anyway, my second point, it's a fucking video game. How could it possibly inspire my child to do something in real life out of that video game? Like, after my kid plays Max Payne 3, I don't expect him when I call him for dinner for him to fucking bend gravity to his will while jumping into the kitchen like Max Payne. It's the dumbest argument ever that kids will do the things they see on screen. How come we don't see that apply to kids' movies? We don't see kids trying to jump off buildings and shit to fly like Superman, so why is this fictional occurrence applied so heavily to video games? On top of this, I also sincerely doubt a child would ever get into a gunfight like in a video game just because he saw it on screen. I think even the smallest of child could agree that the logic inside of video games are so clearly ridiculous and comical that no human could recreate it in real life. Also, it's not like your child even wants to recreate what he sees on screen. He just wants to enjoy a video game. The argument that children want to do that only really applies to things that can be immediately applied to the real world. Like, for example, I could easily see a kid wanting to be like a celebrity or a rapper or something. But just because a kid is playing a violent video game, it doesn't mean he actually wants to pull out a pistol and get into a dangerous, life-threatening situation. I mean, the arguments here are just ridiculous. But the most obnoxious argument, in my opinion, is that violent video games are just plain inappropriate for children. In most modern releases, the amount of gore they all have makes it appropriate for nobody technically, since murder is never okay. So how is your child playing it going to negatively affect them any more than it would as an adult? Children are immature as shit and love the word fuck and love boobs and love farting. Grand Theft Auto is like the perfect vessel for those things that a child can enjoy in a fictional setting rather than a real life one. In fact, parents should be thrilled coping devices like Grand Theft Auto even exist. I would have zero issue with a small child under the age of like 10 playing GTA. It's just not a big deal. Not only is it a game series about a bunch of poorly modeled human beings doing retarded shit that isn't possible in the real world, but it's not going to scar that child at all. If anything, it's just providing them with a really good time. Another argument I have is that if you shelter your child from violent video games until they're like 16 years old, you are preparing your child to be a gigantic pussy and nobody is going to want to hang out with them. Literally, nobody likes that kid who believes fictional violence is wrong or disgusting to the point of revulsion. If you shelter your child that hard, they aren't going to be prepared for the horrors of the real world, and when they are eventually exposed to it, they'll go nuts and be obsessed with it, pretty much destroying all of those years of anti-video game parenting you did in an attempt to stop this very thing from happening. Also, I just think the ESRB, which if you aren't aware is the Entertainment Software Rating Board, should go away and never come back. It's a really socially outdated system of viewing art, and I think that a parent should simply just look at the cover art and plot of each game and make up their own damn minds on if they want their kid exposed to that, rather than a big scary M rating that sparks fear in the minds of closed-minded parents everywhere. Now, when it comes to film, I definitely do understand censoring children from that. There's a gigantic difference between films and video games. Video games are comprised of a bunch of silly-looking virtual models beating each other up. Even the most serious and scary of video games don't compare to how genuinely gruesome a film can get. To give you a better idea of my perspective, if I had a 7-year-old right now, I'd allow them to play Mortal Kombat, Grand Theft Auto, Halo, etc., but I would not allow them to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Human Centipede, etc., etc. You get the point. Films have so much more power in terms of being disturbing than games, so it absolutely makes sense to censor young eyes from that. But video games? Nah. Overall, I hope this video reached some parents because video games are just generally non-threatening in every single way, shape, and form, and making them taboo in your household or trying to restrict them from your child is only going to create problems in the future that are totally avoidable and unnecessary. My hope is that this video convinces a few parents to maybe reconsider their thoughts on violent video games in general, so that some kids out there can get some awesome gaming experiences that they deserve without all of this drama. Anyway, that's all for today's video. If you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the post notification bell. Stay tuned for more.